welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 botched video game launches.
This is a disaster. We are so screwed, man.
For this list, we'll be looking at the video game debuts that were marred by controversy, poor performance, and other failures. If there's a bungled video game launch we messed up by not including, help us patch our list in the comments. Number 10. Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy, the Definitive Edition.
I want what you want, brother.
Oh, yeah? And what's that?
Your green and my dead brother's white lady. Unfortunately, you just silenced our lead.
Grand Theft Auto is a franchise that always brings plenty of hype with any new release. And while fans are still eager for a new game, a remaster of classic titles should have been a slam dunk. Unfortunately, this trilogy package of upgraded games felt more like downgrades to many fans.
This is a disaster. We are so screwed, man.
The Definitive Edition's new art style was not well received, and it shipped with many glitches and bugs. Additionally, the PC version experienced problems with the Rockstar Games launcher, which made it unplayable at launch. Speaking of which, being forced to use the launcher instead of Steam wasn't too popular either. Ultimately, the most definitive thing about the game's launch was how bungled it was.
Beard, come on!
Number 9. Halo: The Master Chief Collection.
He's hot! Blowing the pins in 5!
Speaking of remastered video game collections, Halo: The Master Chief Collection also experienced a horrific debut. Bugs absolutely plagues the game, with the multiplayer experience being particularly bad. Few dedicated servers, a voice chat that cut in and out, difficulty contacting friends, volume changes, the list goes on. While post-release patches have made the game the definitive, modern way to play Halo it was intended to be, the initial launch sent the game flying flat into its helmeted face and gamers up in arms.
I'm not exactly sure what will happen when we fire it.
We'll head for the portal.
Number 8. Diablo III. Diablo II is one of the most beloved PC games of all time. So to say expectations were high for its sequel would be like saying the sky is blue. Unfortunately, Blizzard massively underestimated the hype for their own game, which broke records with how fast it sold. There weren't enough servers to support players at launch, which is a nightmare scenario for an always online game. Then there was the steep difficulty in finding loot, which made breaking pots and using in-game auction house more profitable than fighting monsters. Diablo III at launch was positively hellish, and not the good kind. Number 7. Overwatch 2. Another much-anticipated sequel that flubbed its arrival is Overwatch 2. There were baffling changes to existing features and AI, one less player per team, and a lack of the previously promised PvE content. These missing features were controversial enough, to the point where some were calling it a step back instead of a sequel. But when you add in all the other problems at launch, like abysmal queue times, a discriminatory phone number policy, and a convoluted battle pass, Overwatch 2 proved to have arguably the worst launch of its year. Number 6. Assassin's Creed Unity.
Let's see what you've got, boy! Not your day, is it, Victor?
The only real Unity this entry in the annual Killing People in Different Historical Periods franchise brought was its negative response. Set during the French Revolution, when many heads rolled, Assassin's Creed Unity's bugs featured plenty of character models with their heads turned inside out. Along with glitches more gruesome than the kills, the game also crashed frequently on PC, and on consoles, the frame rate moved slower than its many trailing missions. While Ubisoft made some fairly generous concessions, like giving away free games and improving the game with patches, its launch permanently damaged its reputation.
Don't be good. What have I done?
Number 5. No Man's Sky. The idea of an endlessly generated universe to explore fired up gamers' imaginations in the mid-2010s. However, upon launch, No Man's Sky not only didn't live up to the hype with a disappointing gameplay loop, but it also didn't include a laundry list of feature promises before release. Problems even launching the game abounded in its first few weeks as well. No Man's Sky was so different at release from what it had been sold as that calling it No Man's Lie has become practically a cliche. We've all heard that it's better, but there are still those who refuse to play it again on principle.
The Foundation update brings construction and more to No Man's Sky.
Number 4. Final Fantasy XIV Online. A JRPG MMO with the name Final Fantasy attached to it seemed too big to fail. But fail, it did. Lag and frame rate problems were rampant, and even when the game ran well, it still took longer than you'd think to get anything done, with its mess of menus and confusing UI. Not that there was much to do, mind you. The base game had little meat on its poorly performing bones. Within a few months, the player base was practically non-existent, and Square Enix had to overhaul the entire thing and re-release it a few years later. And now, it's one of the biggest MMOs out there. But it took a huge failure before Final Fantasy XIV could reach its current success. Number 3. CYBERPUNK 2077.
We've greatly enhanced our crowd and community systems to create the most believable city in any open-world game to date.
Not even Keanu Reeves could save CYBERPUNK 2077 from crashing and burning on arrival. After many delays, this highly anticipated game was finally released, only to make most wish it had spent more time in the oven.
Everyone in this city lives in their own goddamn bubble.
CYBERPUNK was a buggy, glitch-filled mess at launch, with its console version suffering particularly bad performance. Developer CD Projekt Red suffered falling stocks, were forced to issue refunds, and endured lawsuits from investors and angry customers who alleged false advertising. While great strides have been made to improve the game in the years since, its initial reception was anything but excellent. Number 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2. EA and controversy walk hand in hand, but Star Wars Battlefront 2 was an unprecedented fustercluck. In addition to a lackluster single-player campaign, the game's progression system proved frustrating and confusing. Gaining access to hero characters took either more hours than anyone could realistically put into the game, or more money than anyone should spend on them. But these issues were minor compared to the real problem: microtransactions. The loot boxes essentially made the game pay to win, and caused several countries to label loot crates as gambling. In just a few weeks after its release, EA's stock price fell $3 billion. Battlefront 2 was an unmitigated disaster, though not quite the worst game launch ever.
Just like it did when they destroyed the first Death Star. We adapt or die.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions. Fallout 76. A multiplayer Fallout title plagued by bugs and an aimless wasteland of nothing to do. Anthem. BioWare bungled the pay-to-play model, and the game's mechanics sucked. Marvel's Avengers. Earth's mightiest heroes couldn't save poor performance, gameplay, and an awful loot system.
Good.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I'll go do other things.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. SimCity. If it could go wrong, it did go wrong for SimCity. The baffling choice to make the city simulator only play online meant that server crashes were frequent in its first week. Basically, no one could play the game for the first week it was out. At least without the game crashing, save data being lost, or a host of other issues. Then there's the issues with the game's engine itself, with The Sims acting in the most efficient manner instead of the most realistic one. SimCity is simply one of the most disastrous launches in gaming history. And it was another EA fiasco. Shocking. Launches. Video game launches.
Ooh, EA is so controversial. Ooh, what you gonna do? You gonna rid me of my children next? Am I gonna have to pay for the battle pass so I can spend time with my son?